The 1.2 special program for Arknights Endfield just dropped, and honestly, it changes everything. There is a lot to unpack here. We got story teasers, quality of life updates, an awesome banner for people who missed out on Gilberta and Lavatane, and we even got 3 new operators teased. They all look so cool, my savings are so cooked! But more importantly, the devs are clearly trying to respond to player feedback. A lot of the major complaints the game have is being addressed in one way or another. Of course, not every complaints have been addressed, and we'll talk more about that later. But let's break down the major complaints people have about the game first. If I would break down the major issues people have about Endfield, I would break it down to these points: story, events, whole economy, endgame content, and weapon ticket system, or just the general gacha system. Let's start with the things they did address. First, the pool economy. Now, we still don't know the exact number we're gonna get in 1.2, because in 1.1 it was definitely not enough. I think it was kind of scarce, but there are some promising changes here. We are getting a free monthly pass, and not only is it free, it stacks with the paid one. That alone is a pretty big deal, and it's clearly a direct response to people saying we aren't getting enough pulls. But on top of that, we're also only getting 1 character banner for the entire patch, which I can already see some people complain about. It actually gives player way more time to save and pull, especially for such a major and very anticipated release like Chuangfangyi. So it helps with the economy a lot. But again, we still don't know the exact amount we're gonna get in 1.2, but this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I am cautiously optimistic about it. Second, the endgame content. This is probably the biggest issue the game has right now, in my opinion. A lot of people are dropping the game simply because there's nothing meaningful to do once you're done with the main content. In 1.2, we're getting more Umbral Monument, which is great. It is honestly one of the better combat modes I played in the gacha game, with the mechanics that actually encourage different team builds, with the different unique gimmicks they have for each stage. We are also getting more HP salvage while it is more divisive, and personally I'm not that big of a fan of it. I still think it needs a lot of tweaking. Hey, but we're getting more of it, and we'll see if it's exactly the same or if it's improved. But the real highlight of the endgame mode is not actually in this patch. They confirmed that CC, or Contingency contract, is coming back. Now, if you played the original Arknights, you already know how big this is. It is a challenge-based mode where you can scale difficulty with modifiers, forcing you to optimize your strategy and team comms. It is exactly the kind of repeatable endgame content that Endfield desperately needs. The only downside, it is not coming in the next patch. So yeah, it's the great news, especially for us who have been complaining about the lack of a replayable endgame. We just have to wait and see how they actually implement the mode in this game. But plenty of Arknights fans have been excited hearing the news, and they've told me how hard the content is, so hey, I'm ready for even more suffering. Now third, the story. The story has been another major weak point so far. One of the biggest issues in the narrative is just it doesn't have a stake, it doesn't feel urgent, and there is no strong central conflict driving things forward. While 1.1 did improve the story, it's still a bit contained, and some of the writing is still a bit weak. But again, it's decent enough and it's a good step up from 1.0. But from what we saw in the 1.2 preview, that might finally be changing. It looks like we're starting to see the main antagonist make some move, Ardashir and Nevrith, and the central cast are getting more involved. That's exactly what the story needs, a clear direction and higher stakes. The boss they showed also looks great, but more than that, I just want to understand what we're actually up against, you know? Of course, trailers can be misleading, so this all comes down to the execution, which we'll have to see in the actual patch, but from what we see, it seems like things are finally moving forward. Now, these are some good changes, and they address a few of the big complaints people have, but like they've been saying, they are listening to our feedbacks, which is why it is more important than ever for us to keep talking about the game's issues that are still not addressed, which are, first, the weapon ticket. The weapon ticket situation is still the worst part of the game's gacha system, and as of now, they have not addressed it yet. The arsenal tickets being tied down to pulling on the character banner is not good, because if you get lucky in the banner, then you won't have any tickets to get the weapon. Getting punished for being lucky is definitely not okay, and we need more ways to get the arsenal tickets. Another big issue the game has that I'm not sure if they have addressed is the events. all of the events we've been getting so far is basically very tedious chores, which are made as an excuse to give us pulse and resource. While it is fine in a vacuum and every gacha game has and needs some of the filler events, we also need bigger and more interesting events in between so that there are more compelling reasons for people to keep logging in. And while we do seem to get a space event and a factory related one on the next patch, we know little to nothing about the event and if it's gonna be something big. But I am kind of doubtful at the moment. I hope they prove us wrong. But overall, I think this livestream was a very good one. If you've seen my video before covering the game and my hope of the future of the game, you can see that I am very optimistic about the game. But compared to before, I'm definitely even more optimistic. They are making changes in the areas that actually matter, and more importantly, they are acknowledging the community's feedback and acting upon them, even though there are still more to be done, of course. Now, the real test is consistency. If they keep this up and actually follow through on the bigger issues, Endfield can definitely reach its high potential that I know the game has. So now we'll just have to wait until 1.2 drops and see where the future goes. But I am excited and the livestream was awesome. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It's a bit of a shorter video covering the special program, but I hope you enjoyed the video and leave a like and maybe subscribe if you like my content for more. I'm planning to make more of these videos and I plan on covering many other gacha games like NTE or Wuthering Waves eventually, so you have that to look forward to as well. And I also stream consistently on both YouTube and Twitch. Feel free to come and hang out. Thank you so much again, guys, and see you next time.